Hey, I'm Adam Jusko from ProudMoney.com. In this video, we are going to look at the best credit cards for gas rewards. But before we do that, I'm going to ask you to please subscribe to this YouTube channel if you have not already. And if you have already, I thank you for doing so. So we have touched on gas rewards in other videos, specifically when I've done sort of roundups of the best cards in each category, but usually I've only talked about maybe 2 or 3. I've never done a dedicated video to gas rewards, so that's what this is going to be. And so we're going to try and answer the question, what is the best credit card for gas rewards? And the answer to that is going to be different depending on what your preferences are. So there is an answer if it's just I want a card that is the very best for gas rewards and I'll worry about my rewards on other purchases with other credit cards. Or you might want a card that is very good on gas rewards, but also is good in other areas too, so that's going to give you an enhanced reward maybe on groceries or dining or other things of that nature. So we're going to look at both of those things in this video. All the numbers I'm going to put out here are based on what I knew when this video was made, but it is an ever-changing world and it is possible that things will be different, especially if you are seeing this video at a time substantially later than when it was made. So make sure that you check the specifics on these cards for yourself before you apply for them. All right, so let's start with the best card if you only care about zooming in on that best gas reward and you'll worry about other credit cards for getting better rewards in other categories. And so that very best credit card for gas would be the Dux Unlimited credit card. It sounds like a very unlikely card to be the best on gas purchases, but it is true. So the Dux Unlimited credit card benefits the organization Dux Unlimited, but it gives 5% cash back on gas purchases, the best card that we know of for gas rewards if you really want to hone in on just that. You'll also get 5% cash back on sporting goods purchases with this card, 1% cash back on everything else. There's no annual fee for the card. You're not going to get any bonus, but if you just want to look at that gas reward, the Dux Unlimited credit card is the way to go. Now, if you're looking for a card that is good in the gas area in terms of rebates or rewards, but you also want something that you can use a little more as an everyday card, it's going to give you some enhanced rewards in some other categories, then we can talk about some of those cards that you might consider as well. I'm going to start with 2 cards in particular that I like because of the rewards they give in addition to gas, but then we'll also talk about some others that might work for you based on your particular situation. So first up, let's talk about the Wells Fargo Propel American Express card, a card that gives you 3 points per dollar, essentially 3% on your gas purchases, as well as dining purchases, flights and hotels, and other travel, transit services, meaning Uber and Lyft, and other things of that nature, streaming services, so a lot of 3% categories with this card. You get 1% on anything that doesn't fall into those categories, but a ton of places to earn 3%, gas being one of them. This is a card that also has the potential for a 30,000 point bonus, which equals $300 if you redeem it for cash. If you spend $3,000 in the first 3 months of having it, there's no annual fee on this card. So overall, a very nice card. I understand that Wells Fargo is not everyone's favorite bank to deal with necessarily, but when we are looking at the features of a card, especially for gas, this is definitely one that has to be considered. Next up is the Blue Cash Preferred card from American Express. This card does have a $95 annual fee, but it can be very much worth that annual fee if your purchases make sense based on what this card is offering. So you get 3% cash back on your gas purchases at US gas stations, but then you'll also get cash back in a ton of other places that could matter even more in terms of deciding whether this card is right for you. You're going to get 6% cash back at US supermarkets up to $6,000 in those supermarket purchases. After that, you get 1% cash back. You get 6% back on most streaming services, 3% back on most transit services, so ride sharing and other transit transportation things as well. So a lot of things going on here where you can, get a good cash back rate, 3% on the gas. It's that supermarket in particular where you're going to want to think, are you going to get up close to that 6,000 cap where you can get that 6%, because that's really where you're going to kind of make the decision as to whether the annual fee is worth it. There is a bonus on this card that varies depending on, sort of when you apply. So you're going to want to keep an eye out and see when it is at its best. Usually it's $200 to $300 after you spend $1,000 in the first 3 months of having the card. So keep your eyes open and, try and get on the higher end of that, obviously, if you're interested. Okay, now let's look at some other cards that do make sense in terms of their gas reward, but also other features that might make them right for you, depending on how many cards you want to juggle, depending on what your purchasing patterns are outside of gas purchases. We're going to look at all that. Next up is the Costco Anywhere Visa, a card that gives 4% back on gas purchases, 3% back on restaurant and travel purchases, 2% on Costco purchases, 1% everywhere else. You have to be a paid Costco member in order to get this card. There is no bonus on this card, so the rewards are in the day-to-day spend and earning of rewards versus getting a bonus. Now, as I'm making this video, I'm pretty sure this is still how it works on the redemption end. Something that makes this card a little shaky in my eyes is the fact that you only can redeem your rewards one time per year. So you get all your rewards collected up and then you can redeem them, and you have to go into a Costco store in order to actually redeem them. So they're almost forcing you into their store, probably hoping that you're going to immediately use your rewards to buy more Costco products. So that is something that is a little annoying, I think, to some people, especially if you like to be able to get your hands on your rewards as you go along. All right, two other cards to talk about that seem to come up in almost every video when we're kind of counting down these lists, and that is the Chase Freedom card and the Discover It card. Two no annual fee cards that give you 5% cash back in rotating categories that change each calendar quarter. Both of these cards regularly feature gas as one of their 5% categories. However, you're only going to get gas in one quarter from each one of them. So none of these cards, or neither of these cards, would be one that you would get as sort of a dedicated card for gas purchases. However, if you're someone who is willing to juggle multiple cards, these cards can make sense. For instance, here in 2019, in the first quarter of 2019, Chase was offering 5% back on gas purchases on their Freedom card. Discover was offering 5% back on gas purchases in the second quarter of 2019. So essentially, if you had been carrying both of these cards, you could get 5% back on all your gas purchases for the whole first half of 2019. Now, obviously, the second half of 2019, you're not getting those things. So that's why you would need other cards to sort of complement these. But obviously, that is a nice reward to get. Both of these cards are, like I said, no annual fee, and they have a bonus of $150 if you spend $500 in the first 3 months of having them. All right, a couple regional bank credit cards to mention now. If these banks are in your area, they match up well with our gas rewards topic. The first one is the PNC Cash Rewards Visa. This is a card that gives 4% cash back on your gas purchases, 3% on dining, 2% on groceries, 1% on everything else. Now, there is an $8,000 cap on those 4%, 3%, 2% categories, all those combined each year. So if you spent over $8,000 on gas, dining, and groceries, then after that you'd only get 1%. But that's a pretty decent cap for a lot of people. This card has no annual fee. It does have the opportunity of a $100 bonus if you spend $1,000 in the first 3 months of having it. Next up is the Bank of the West Cashback Credit Card, a card that gives you 3% cash back on your gas purchases, as well as 3% on dining, 3% on groceries, 1% on any other purchases you make with the card. It has no annual fee. There's no bonus on this card. One thing to note is the fact that you're going to get that 3% on gas up to $1,500 in purchases of gas each calendar quarter. So pretty high limit, but if for whatever reason you would spend over $1,500 on gas in a calendar quarter, you'd only get 1% after you hit that $1,500 cap. All right, now back to the big dogs of the banking world. The next card we're going to talk about is the Citi Premier card. This is a card that has no annual fee the first year, $95 annual fee every year after that. Now you are going to get points on this card in the Citi Thank You program. You're going to get 3 points per dollar on your gas purchases. You're going to get 3 points per dollar on your travel purchases. You're going to get 2 points per dollar on your restaurant purchases and 2 points per dollar on your entertainment purchases. 1 point for everything else. So far, it sounds like a decent card, okay, but it also has a very big bonus of 50,000 points if you spend $4,000 in the first 3 months of having this card. If you use those points toward travel through Citi's travel portal, you can actually get $625 worth of travel out of that bonus. So this card is a decent card, I think, on the everyday level, but it also has that very nice bonus up front, which definitely makes it worth mentioning in this video. Now let's talk about the Bank of America Cash Rewards card, a card that gives you 3% cash back on your gas purchases. Technically, it gives you 3% cash back in your choice of purchase categories, but gas is the default, and since we're talking about gas, that's what we are going to go with. So 3% cash back on gas, 2% cash back on grocery and wholesale club purchases, 1% cash back on anything else that you buy with the card. Now there is a cap on that 3% and 2% category. So if you spend over $2,500 in a calendar quarter between the gas and the grocery and wholesale club purchases, then after that you'd only get 1% back. So if you are going to carry this card with other cards, you would really want to max out the gas end of it and make sure you don't go over that $2,500 limit on the groceries, in order to get the maximum benefit from this card. For a lot of people, that's probably not going to matter, but for some people, that cap is something that is going to restrain them a little bit from, maybe wanting this card or using it regularly. It's a no annual fee card. It does have a bonus of $200 if you spend $1,000 in the first 3 months of having it, which is a pretty generous bonus for a no annual fee card. All right, finally, I'm going to talk about 5 sort of gas station specific credit cards that you might consider if you don't qualify for some of those other cards, or for some reason, they're very prevalent in your area and you want to go to these stations in particular. I'm going to talk about 5 cards that I think are worth looking at. If you don't hear me talk about a gas station, that maybe you were thinking about, that probably means that I don't think that their credit card is very good, because a lot of these gas station specific cards offer a sort of cents off per gallon thing, where if you really do the calculations, you find out you're really not getting a very good rebate. So the cards that I would recommend at least looking into, if they make sense for you and if you're interested, are the BP card, the Gulf card, the Meyer MasterCard, the Sheets card, and the Shell Fuel Rewards MasterCard. All of those cards, sometimes the calculations are a little difficult to do in your head, but as far as I'm concerned, looking at them as I'm making this video, most of them should give you at least a 3% return on your gas purchases with the card. So, depending on the price of gas, sometimes that may go up or down, but most of them are generous enough that they're at least worth considering. Overall, I would say go with one of those general market cards before any of these cards, but if for whatever reason those make sense for you, those are the ones that I would say are at least worth looking at. So that's it. If you are someone that buys gas often and you are using a different credit card than one of the ones that I have already mentioned, I would love to hear about that for the next time I do a gas rewards credit card video. I would love to hear those in the comments below, or any other questions or comments that you might have. Otherwise, I thank you for watching, and as always, I'd ask you to go to proudmoney.com, where we do credit card reviews and have personal finance news and talk deals and all sorts of other fun stuff too. Thanks for watching. Bye.